Clean Energy Wire, CLEW from Berlin, an organization dedicated to reporting on global climate change. But above all, solutions marked its 10th anniversary this year. In the last 10 years, they gathered professionals from all over the world, created a fantastic network of journalists, and organized a 2-day conference.
The main achievement clearly was that we brought together an international community of journalists who really care about, writing for their audience, creating the stories for their audience to understand climate change, the need for climate action, and what we focus on, the energy transition. So we have now 500 in our CLEW network who work in various countries, different languages, but share the same spirit. This is an important story for our audience that needs to be told well. And now let's work together how to do that. And we also do our own journalism, and we also do media trainings. But if I have to pick one of the 3 things where, the last 10 years have been particularly impactful, and that's the one.
One of the raised issues discussed at the conference was how low-income families will transition to green energy when they don't have the financial resources. European countries are certainly looking for solutions to this problem.
First of all, I think it's important that we provide the low and middle income households with the opportunity so that they can transform. Right? Because otherwise they get stuck in a fossil fuel life with old fossil cars and with fossil heatings. So we have to provide subsidy programs and to enable them also to benefit from a climate-friendly transition. And this is a debate we have in Germany, but also I see it at the European scale, because we will have the emerging debate about the second so-called emission trading system that will be installed for transport and heating, and prices might increase, and we have to protect the people, or we have to prepare that people are not stuck in a fossil fuel life, but really to support them so that they can transform, so that increasing prices do not hurt them too much.
Asian countries face different problems because many of them are in a very bad situation as far as media freedom is concerned. But there are also different problems in countries where this is not the case.
I come from Taiwan. I'm very lucky because Taiwan has a very good media freedom. I think we're among the top 20 country. We're the only country that's not orange or yellow on the map of the media freedom. But as you said, that it is really very difficult for reporters to cover climate change, not because of a lack of media freedom, because usually media freedom, it has to do with political or human rights issues that will be sensitive, but a difficulty facing reporters in Asia, it's more like there's a lack of interest in climate-related stories, because how media outlets make money, they rely on clicks or advertisement to give you money, and if your readers are not interested in climate change-related stories, they don't click, and the rating is bad, so the editorial chiefs will maybe say, why do you write these stories? Nobody wants to read them, so it's better if you write the viral stories or stories about investment that people would click on. So I would say that the hurdle is in the business model of these media outlets.
One of the questions to the expert on the elimination of carbon dioxide from the air was how Serbia can make that transition to green energy, knowing that it depends on the use of fossil fuels and the coal is still the main source of power plants.
Well, I think the beauty of what's happened with solar energy and wind energy and some of these older technologies is they've become so cheap that they actually compete with natural gas and coal in some instances. And so I think the difficulty perhaps for Serbia might be, in the long run, it would save money to switch away from fossil fuels, and it would improve health. There's so many excess deaths every year from air pollution, and we've sort of just gotten used to it. It's almost like, why are we treating that as just the backdrop of mortality that we're comfortable with? And so there's lots of reasons to move away from fossil fuels to clean energy. I think, in the long run, when you switch to clean energy, you usually save money because you don't have to keep purchasing a fuel, but there is an upfront cost, and that usually requires borrowing money. So it's a financing challenge. And in Serbia's case, I can imagine perhaps it's difficult to borrow. Perhaps the rates that are charged for borrowing are too high. So there is a call to action maybe to make to the full European and global community to say, what can you do to help countries like Serbia make that transition more rapidly? I don't know the details of your energy system, but I think, in the long run, there's no question that you need to make that transition, and that transition will benefit Serbia. Alok was mentioning, the future in which we have so much abundant clean energy, it's very cheap, almost free. Think about the industry, the creativity, the productivity that could happen if you had, very, very cheap and clean energy that wasn't causing air pollution and particulates in Beograd and this kind of thing. So
Germany is looking for solutions to this problem on a serious level in all aspects, and above all, in the economic one. European countries are working hard to adopt all options for changing the use of energy sources that pollute the environment.
I think it's important to have a price signal, right? To say, okay, consumption of CO2 is increasing and is costly. So this is one part. Of course, we might also have a debate on more frequent flyers. Richer households fly much more frequent. There are debates, for example, in the UK about a frequent flyer levy. But I think moral appeals or so are not enough. We need a kind of regulatory framework that consists of a carbon price at the center, so to indicate that it will become costly with this kind of CO2 lifestyle. But what we do not, what we also see in the data already is that richer households already transform, right? They already have, in parts, they switch to electric cars or to heat pumps. So we have to focus on the middle and low income households and to avoid the carbon lock-in for them.
Year after year, Clean Energy Wire has built a huge network of journalists from around the world, and this is the first time that CLEW is bringing some of them together for a conference in Berlin.
Well, it's amazing. You start a conference, with people you've seen only online or sometimes only know by name, and then all of a sudden you have them in the room and present themselves and their work, and it goes from the Philippines via Japan, countries in all over Europe, actually, to America and Latin America and South Africa. So, you can see, and I feel that is in this time and age particularly important, that there is a shared interest across the globe in these stories, and bringing this together and showcasing this and then working together on the big topics. That's clearly the highlight of our work. That's why this conference means a lot to us.
Networking opens up new perspectives for approaching the problem of climate change itself and opens up new possibilities. The workshops that were organized open up new experiences for team collaboration and the exchange of experiences among colleagues on a global level.
I think one aspect has to be that we don't have to think as ourselves as lonely wolves anymore. As climate reporters, we have to work collaboratively in a team, and only like this, because it's a massive job to report on the climate crisis, and therefore we have to team up. We have to be at places like this, at this CLEW event here, and we have to share our ideas. We have to work together. We have to build alliances and get even stronger to report on the climate crisis.
Not only reporting and raising awareness, but also motivating others by personal example. This is the point of the necessary change to restore the health of the planet. Many set an example and motivate others by their own action, so they have already made a personal transition to renewable energy.
So I'm a big believer in data and using that to demonstrate progress. So, for example, looking at how Uruguay has run on 100% renewable electricity for 10 straight months as a way to demonstrate that there are actually solutions there and we can do this energy transition and to kind of tackle a lot of that disinformation that renewable energy doesn't work, it's not reliable, and I think that's kind of the future, is keeping an eye on who's leading the way and how they're going about it so that the rest of the world can learn, and so that the politicians who are looking for excuses not to do it, actually the excuses don't hold anymore.
Different parts of the world have different problems. In one of the previous interviews, the director of the World Meteorological Organization, Roberta Boscola, warned that island countries are the most threatened by rising sea levels. The main question is whether it is possible to do something.
If you look at those island nations that are under the most threat from rising sea level, are countries like the Marshall Islands or Maldives or Tuvalu, which is actually a diplomatic ally of Taiwan. You will see that the rising sea levels over the past few decades have been so prevalent that many families are forced to move inland, and many of them have actually immigrated to other countries because they can no longer stay in their homes. I think those governments are really very much aware of the problem, and I think many of them are also asking developed nations to help out, maybe to help them relocate or to come up with I don't know the solutions, how long they're going to last, because really when the water levels are rising, there's very little you could do. But I think I saw that there are some efforts to build maybe high houses that are away from the water. But honestly, I don't know if that's the long-term solution. So I think this is a humanitarian crisis, and there should be large-scale relocation plans for the island nation people.
Experts say that climate change may soon bring humanity to the point of no return, but only if there is no concrete action. However, will and action can change the future. Each individual bears responsibility, but journalists have a special moral duty to report on this global problem and solutions.
Well, this conference is a bit about the future of what we want to do. We set 3 topics that we think journalism and societies have to urgently look into because they will become ever more important. We live now in the age of what we call the climate consequences. Climate change is real. It is already happening. Europe is the most affected continent right now. You have to realize that here the changes are particularly drastic, that are coming and are already locked in. So we have been too slow on climate mitigation, on reducing emissions. And it's also the consequences of the action we start taking now. So we do certain things, which is good, but that changes the way society operates. People, need to change the way they go to work, or maybe they have to change the way how they cook or how they heat their homes. So these consequences become real. And for these, we need proper journalism, and that explains things, that shows options, solutions, is critical, but not sarcastic or pessimistic. And we've identified 3 areas we feel particularly important. One is the social impact of climate action. How can we make sure that nobody in society is shut out or left behind? The second one is big technologies. how can we cover the positive aspects by still being critical about things like carbon removal, sucking the dirt out of the air again, literally. And the third aspect we will be talking about now, actually, is how can a continent like Europe, how can countries across the world change, adapt to the climate change that is already happening? Who needs to do what? How should we as journalists and media then report on that? So that's what we will focus on in the future, hopefully with more engaged journalists and hopefully further gatherings and workshops and moments like this one.
Professional speakers on stage, joint workshops, exchange of opinions and information, and an incredibly professional approach to everything led to the fact all present journalists from around the world went home richer for an unforgettable experience, thanks to excellent organization of the Clean Energy Wire CLEW team from Berlin. For Media Portal, straight to the center, Saša Dobrijević.